Well, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. It looks like we have a small group assembled, and I'll watch the waiting room as more folks try to log in. So my name is Tracy Austin, and I'm the Director of Alumni and Community Relations at Colby-Sawyer. And it's great to have all of you online with us for our Alumni Speaker Series presentation. This alumni speaker series, we actually developed it during COVID, and we've decided to stick with it. It's been a really great program for us to highlight the accomplishments and the diverse career paths of our alumni. We hope that these speakers really will inspire our current students and our fellow alumni and remind us all of the possibilities of a Colby-Sawyer education. So tonight we're thrilled for you to meet Garrett Lavallee, who graduated from Colby-Sawyer in 2006 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Child Development. Garrett currently serves as the Principal and Director of Special Education. Sorry, I'm admitting folks as well. Sorry about that. Garrett serves as the Principal and Director of Special Education at Spalding Academy and Family Services in Northfield, New Hampshire. And you're going to hear a lot more about Garrett and his long relationship with Spalding in just a moment. I'm also pleased to introduce my colleague, Amy Carrier-Lyon, who will be moderating today's conversation with Garrett. Amy is a 1985 graduate of Colby-Sawyer. She received her master's degree at Dartmouth College and went on to receive her doctorate in educational leadership at New England College. And after a 30-plus year career teaching in the public schools, she joined the Colby-Sawyer faculty in 2018, where she now teaches future teachers. So thanks both of you for being here and joining us for this great session tonight. So before we hear from Amy and Garrett, just a couple of quick reminders. We are recording today's presentation, and we'll share that link with you in the coming days. Because we are hosting this session in the meeting format, all of you have access to your microphones and your cameras. So use your cameras as you're comfortable or not. We do ask that during the moderated conversation that you keep your microphones muted so that there's little distraction for Garrett and for Amy. And then of course, Amy and Garrett, if they have questions for the audience, they'll ask you to unmute. And at the end, we will leave plenty of time for you to kind of raise your hands and ask your questions directly live to Garrett. Or if you want, you can certainly use the chat function to post your questions, and we'll get to some of those at the end of the session. So I hope you all enjoy the conversation tonight with Garrett Lavallee, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks again for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Lyon, and I am honored. I was so pleased and honored that Tracy asked me to facilitate this conversation with my wonderful buddy, Garrett Lavallee. So first question, Garrett, are you able to share a bit about your background, including how it was that you landed at Colby-Sawyer? How'd you get to us way back then?
Sure. I grew up in New Hampshire. I'm New Hampshire born and raised, and grew up in Guilford, New Hampshire. Loving mom and dad, little sister, wonderful childhood, and played a lot of sports growing up. So I ended up playing on the Olympic development team in the state of New Hampshire, and Peter Steese, who was the soccer coach back then, ended up inviting me to Colby-Sawyer for a visit. And I had gone and visited other colleges and spent time in the city, and then I came to Colby-Sawyer and said, I'm coming here. Just the beauty of the campus, small class size, just the feel, really it hooked me, from the very beginning. And so long story short, how I ended up in Burpee Hall.
So life at Colby-Sawyer, what was that like for you? Did you start as a child development major right off the bat?
I did. That was another thing that attracted me to Colby-Sawyer was the child development program, and with the Windy Hill Lab School that was on campus. So I majored in child development. Life at Colby-Sawyer, I played soccer and other intramural sports in the off seasons, and lived all around campus. lived off campus, but the whole time really just loved the feel of the campus and kind of the sense of community. For such a small school, there was always something to do, whether it was like the arts or shows that were going on or comedians brought to campus or any of the all of the fun stuff they made happen.
Do you have out of that when you're thinking back, do you have anything that you can think of that would be that you could share with us about favorite memories or something that you appreciated most than
Yeah,
just the general feel?
I'd say the friendships, the relationships, there's a sense of intimacy, I think, at Colby-Sawyer, where, there's no hiding. You're there and the professors know when you're not there or if you're doing well in class. And I think looking back, I'm most fond of the fact that my professors cared. Now being an administrator and a teacher for years, I think that's a very fond memory that if you asked me 20 years ago, I wouldn't have said I loved my teachers. And that was part of my fondness of Colby-Sawyer. But now looking back, I'm like, wow, they made a big part of making me who I am. Um, Another fond memory is I struggled in school. I had a hard time with balance and just keeping everything in order and ended up leaving school for a little while. And Colby-Sawyer brought me back and I came back to college and got my diploma from Colby-Sawyer, which again, in retrospect, having a campus and community that believed in you and supported me, I look back on that, and Amy, you and I have talked about that in my own growth. Um, you called it what, the Colby-Sawyer juice?
The special sauce.
Special sauce, right. And in retrospect, the love that Colby-Sawyer shared, in addition to like my amazing friends, my friends on the soccer team and stuff like that, but the community as a whole, I would say is one of my favorite memories about Colby-Sawyer.
What's always amazing to me is that when students come to visit, they can feel that right away. And it's so hard to quantify. It's so hard to describe.
It
But
is.
but it's so there's something that's so important about that I feel like not a ton of other schools, if you just go on campus, you can feel it.
Absolutely. And it really, I believe Colby-Sawyer is really student centered, just human centered, not even just students. Um, because it's so small and intimate and the professors know the students. Um, Janet Bliss, who was there for years, was so influential in my life. Patty Foose, who I did an internship with, who's another Colby-Sawyer alumni. Peter Shanks, who unfortunately had passed away, but he was a teacher at the Windy Hill School. Those are three people that I'm not sure I am where I am today without those professors who, again, were had the courage to think outside the box and meet me with where I was at, which really informs what I do today. Um, yeah, it's pretty special. Holds a dear place in my heart.
Looking back now, this is a great question that hinges on that. So what would you give your old self, your like if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself when you were there?
Balance, find a balance. Um, take one day at a time. It's hard. You move out of your home. Or for me, it was the first time moving out of my house. And I was living in a dorm and my parents weren't getting me up for classes and I was going a million different directions. So if I would talk to my 18-year-old Garrett, I'd be a lot skinnier, less gray hair, and I would tell myself to just take things slow down, enjoy it. You're only that young once, right? Enjoy the college experience, but also there is incredible professors. And it wasn't until my junior year where I really was like, wow, I'm surrounded by brilliant people and I'm paying money to learn. So I'm just going to be a sponge and take all this in. So I would have told myself to my freshman, sophomore year to do that. But
So wait, just checking. I think so when you spoke about the sort of the atmosphere of Colby-Sawyer and how special it is and that it's caring and student-centered and all that kind of stuff, I can't help but think of every single time I bring students to Spalding that that's exactly what they feel. I mean,
Yeah.
when you drive on that campus, that is exactly, and we all get out and we all go, oh, this is beautiful. And the people who are there, well, gosh, I should have had that printed out so I could read it to these guys, what the student wrote about you and what Spalding does. Can you speak to that a little bit about, like, you know, your journey after leaving Colby-Sawyer and then landing at Spalding then as your next stop?
Sure. Um, I I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know how I fit into the public realm of education. And Colby-Sawyer learning about Reggio Emilia and her approach to education and how education didn't have to be linear and it wasn't just you went from A to Z. There's different pathways. I think Colby-Sawyer made me believe in that I could be a good teacher. And then when I went to Spalding, I worked at Spalding through college. Well, and to be honest, I mean, I grew up at Spalding. My parents met there. My dad worked there for 44 years. I grew up in a home where kids without homes would come stay at my house. So I grew up kind of around that alternative education, the foster care system, kids that were in tough places. So the tools that Colby-Sawyer gave me when I left, I went to Spalding and became a paraeducator and then moved my way up to becoming an assistant teacher and then a special ed teacher and then eventually assistant principal and now the principal. But um, I've been there 25 years now, and I think Colby-Sawyer prepared me in a way they always had us develop rationales, right, for everything we're doing, and you had to justify it. And at the time, I was like, this is driving me mental. And then I got to be a teacher, and I was like, oh, my professors are smart. You need to rationalize this stuff, and you need to explain to a superintendent or a principal, you know, why you're doing what you're doing. So when I went to Spalding to become a teacher after being a para, and my principal was asking me all these questions, I was so well prepared to justify myself because there was nothing more difficult than Janice Ewing's classes or Janet Bliss's of having to justify and provide a rationale for why you're doing what you're doing. And then like I said, I kind of moved up through the ranks. I've done most of the jobs there other than be a service provider or BCBA or any of that stuff.
Right. So I just realized I need to do a timeout because I know you so well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was assuming that maybe everybody here understood what Spalding even is. And so I was
Cool.
just assuming that. So we'll just take a step back, and if you can just explain for all the people who are participating a little bit about Spalding.
Absolutely. So Spalding Academy and Family Services has been around since post-Civil War. That's when we started. And it started with orphans from the Civil War who came back. Our parents didn't come back from war, and there were all these children. And so over the years, there's been a number of different names for the entity, but it's been around for 153 years. And what we do is we're on 500 acres of land in Northfield, gorgeous campus.
Mm,
Um, and we have 7 residences that children live in. We have about 47 kids that don't have homes or are wards of the state, or it's just not safe for them to be at home. And they live on our campus. About 20 of them go to public school, and the other 17, 20, 27 go to school at our school. And then I have 30 something kids that are bussed in from all over the state, Claremont, Nashua, the Seacoast, to receive special education services. Every student in our school receives special education. In addition to that, they have been subjected to, not all of them, but a lot of our children have been subjected to abuse and neglect or other traumas in their life. And they're taken out of their homes by the Department of Children, Youth, and Families or the juvenile justice system. So We serve kids. We have a couple kids from Vermont as well, but really it's just New Hampshire children. And we have a beautiful school up on campus, and like I was saying, the houses and residences that the children live in. It's a brief background. I mean, I could talk about it for hours in regards to Spalding itself, but it it's a pretty special place. And anybody's welcome to come visit if you'd like at some point. Amy
I'm
will
gonna,
put you in their car. She'll bring you up.
that's right, I will. I would love for you to talk about your playground.
Sure. Yeah, we just built the largest adaptive playground in New England. Um, and it is for we have a saying or saying at Spalding, every child deserves a childhood. And the part of a childhood is you gotta have a playground. Kids gotta have a place to play. Play is important. And for a long time, we didn't have a playground for kids in wheelchairs or non-ambulatory children. So we had this dream of building this big, beautiful playground, and it came to fruition. And it's incredible because kids can play together. We have swings that are specially designed for kids with low muscle tone, or we have a merry-go-round that you can wheel a wheelchair onto. We can hook the wheelchair in, and the kids can spin with their friends. We have other low-level musical instruments, so kids can wheel to those. But it's a thing of beauty to watch children, because children don't know disabilities. Children see children. And in our campus, it's a beautiful thing to see, even a kid that's gone through unthinkable trauma, sitting with a kid in a wheelchair because they're being compassionate and saying, everyone wants to belong. Everyone wants to feel like they're a part of something. And what a better place than a playground, to belong with your peers and play with your friends.
Well, and when I brought students there, we all laughed because when you walk out onto this, it's that cool matting stuff that's bouncy and gives. So if you do fall or whatever, it's not, they're gonna fall. It's
And
not
they
that
do
big a
fall.
deal. It is not bark mulch.
Oh, no bark mulch. I'm anti-bark mulch.
Right.
Does not have my stamp of approval.
Right. All right, let's see. So what's a typical day like for you now that you're the big cheese?
Big cheese.
Yeah.
It is. I have the best job in the world. I get paid to go help children that need help. And so I usually am at work around like 7, and I make it a point. I usually have meetings in the morning, but 8 o'clock every day, I greet every kid that comes through the front door. It's an opportunity to see where kids are at. I can see if kids are wearing the same clothes as they wore yesterday. I can see how they look getting off the bus. We have secret handshakes, hugs, whatever they need, we check in. And then from there, we have Choose Love, and Choose Love is a social emotional learning curriculum. And as the principal, I go co-teach with teachers.
Yeah, can you dive into that? Because I
Yeah.
think that this is the absolute crux of what you all do best.
Yeah,
And it's the foundation. So if you can explain Choose Love, that
sure.
would be amazing.
We just became the first Choose Live certified school in the world. It's in 120 countries and 15,000 schools. And Choose Love is based off of we partnered with Scarlett Lewis, who lost her son Jesse Lewis to the shooting at Sandy Hook. And from that, she started the Choose Love movement. And the Choose Love movement is grounded on the 4 pillars of courage, gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion. So a lot of our children, not just our children, our staff, a lot of staff that work in our field have had their own traumas, or they want to help people because of stuff they've been through in their life. And so we adopted this about, I was September 6th, 2022 was the day I met with our staff and said, hey, we're doing this. This is non-negotiable. And what it does is it teaches kids and staff to be courageous, to advocate for themselves, to express how they're feeling, that it's okay. It takes courage to cry. It takes courage to tell someone how you're feeling. And then, you move on to grateful. And my kids are so special because they're grateful for the smallest of things. A hug they're grateful for, someone that's making them feel safe. So for me, the foundation of it all is everybody that walks through my front door, I want to feel safe, loved, and nurtured. And I truly believe that if children and staff feel safe, loved, and nurtured, then they're ready to learn. Because if not, you're living in that fight or flight response, which many of our kids from trauma backgrounds are constantly in that fight or flight response. And it's interesting because that part of your brain is four times faster than your frontal lobe. So they're processing that fight or flight and they're ready to fight or they're ready to run. But if we start every day by grounding, our kids do yoga, even our nonverbal, profoundly autistic children, they do yoga and mindfulness activities every morning. We do check-ins every morning. Before we ever get to academics, we take care of the human. We take care of and I'm not saying child, the humans in our school, the people, because we're all on this train together. We're all learning, growing, loving, caring for one another as a community. And that's really the foundation of our school and everything I do as a principal or an administrator. I could also talk about that for hours if you have specific, I don't know if you want to go into anything more detail with that.
No, but if you don't mind, I'm going to read only that first paragraph that student wrote that I sent to you because she did such an amazing job, I think, of describing what it's like there.
Sure.
So I took my student, I teach an exceptional students course for my ed students, and Garrett came to talk with us quickly and or came to talk to us at for a class, and then we went and visited his school for the next class. So he laid the groundwork, and then we actually went to go see everything live. And so they had to post on a forum about this. And so this is one of my students who said, when visiting Spalding Youth Center, it's obvious the intentions of every individual who chooses to work there. The staff's longevity just stands as a testament to their hearts lying in the right place. Something I noticed that struck me is the fact that every accommodation made for their students doesn't seem like a burden. Each student at Spalding has exceedingly different needs, and going out of your way to best help them would come off like a burden to other schools. At Spalding, I'm willing to bet no student ever feels guilty for needing different things in comparison to their peers. This is not only taught to the educators through the inherent culture of the school, but also just happens to occur purely through every person's heart. I feel like the people who are supposed to be there ended up there. Spalding seems to have some very gravitational force for people who want to help every individual, not just those who have to. And she goes on to say, when it comes to my journey in teaching and education, I want to apply that idea of effortless inclusion and equity. I know it's impossible for it to truly take no effort, but I want my students to feel like it's second nature for me to accommodate their needs. And then she goes on to talk. But I thought her nailing down the fact that because we met so many staff members and teachers when we were there, and started to joke about how long, like if you added up all the years that they've been there, it's probably thousands of years. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is crazy. There's a lot of longevity.
There is a lot of longevity. And so they picked up on that, and also how they treat each other, how they treat their students and all of that. So you're just such a good role model for anybody who's going to go into that world, especially to deal with students who have learning differences or whatever. But effortless inclusion and equity, like she nailed it. That's exactly what goes on there.
It is. And a bright student you have there.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of it too, it's for staff too. And when you do that for your staff, they're more apt to do that for their students. We all have our stuff. We're all perfectly imperfect. And one of the jobs of a principal, I think that gets really overlooked. It's all looking at numbers and student outcomes and test scores and all that, but we never look at our staff. And if our staff are doing well, our children will do well. That's how it works. So we spend a lot of time taking care of our staff. It's been unreal with the Choose Love stuff. I can't tell you the number of times, and I wasn't prepared for this. I'm not a therapist. But the number of staff that came in my office and closed the door and said, I've never done positive self-affirmations, or my dad told me, suck it up, be a man, don't cry. And I have a 48-year-old man in my office crying because we're growing and we're breaking down breaking the mold, right, of their life, what they knew up to that point. So as the children, like I've sat in a group therapy session and had a kid forgive her brother for getting adopted, and then the same day have a staff come in and say, I'm learning, I'm growing from this too. Like, I was always told not to cry, and it sounds so cliche and easy, but like, if you take care of your people, your clan, right, and you show them felt safety, and that they belong, the children will follow suit, and they're going to want to do better for the children because we're doing better for them. But I think it's often overlooked as administrators, that that's such a huge part of what we do.
What other things are you proud of there at Spalding? Like what are you most proud of too, besides this? I mean, this is amazing. And the fact that everybody's walking the talk. Like
Yeah.
it's doing but what else?
I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of my students every day that they get up and they come to school. It just the life circumstances that some of those kids have, the fact that they walk through their front door every day. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the culture that we've built. I've won awards and stuff, Teacher of the Years and Emerging Leader Awards, and that's cool. But like to see growth, I'm proud of growth. I'm proud of us having the courage to grow, to not like our public education system is in shambles right now. And in my little school, I'm able to make change that's meaningful, not just for the children, but for the adults that I serve as well. And I take great pride in my staff feeling safe to challenge me. I take great pride in open, collaborative decision making and problem solving processes that we've put in place. I'm proud we put a system in place where every staff that's hired in our school is interviewed by our students. Our students have a say who works with them. Child voice, giving kids who don't have a voice. So I guess overall just proud of our team and the direction we're going. Like we have to have data, but like since we started doing this work, we've seen a 30% reduction in restraints. Some of our kids are really aggressive or really self-injurious, but in 2.5 years, we've experienced a 30% reduction in restraints. This month, we've had 4. We've never had less than 10 in a month, less than 20. This month, we've had 4. And that's just when kids are that unsafe or that dysregulated. So we're creating this really safe culture for children to heal. And it's hard to put a number on that because there's so many anecdotal experiences. I have a story, a kid recently showed up at school. Dad had left a note and he had abandoned his son at 18, a disabled adult. And I watched our whole school wrap around this kid. Help him find services, help him get medical care, help him find a doctor, help him access disability. And then more importantly, help the kids in the class didn't know what was going on, but they all sensed something was going on because we've been practicing compassion for 2 years. And you had kids just stopping and hugging this kid. There are teachers crying all over the halls and just this big sappy mess of a school. And I was like, oh my God, we're doing something right. So out of
Yes.
like tragedy, I was able to see this beautiful, loving community wrap around this child. That's one of the in my 25 years, that day was one of the most proud days I've ever had. Whether as a principal, a teacher, whatever, but to see a community support a kid like that, it was powerful.
Will he be with you till he's 21?
Yeah, 22 probably.
20. Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Thank goodness.
We just got our first 3.5-year-old. which is we had to change our licensing. So yeah, a 3-year-old, which is just crazy. Yeah. So we serve children typically from 4 to 22 years of age, but the need for children in the state of New Hampshire right now who are dealing with the mental health crisis, the aftermath of the opioid epidemic, poverty. Yeah, so we just got our first 3-year-old, which is just crazy.
Wow.
I know.
And is the 3-year-old living on
Yeah.
campus? Ooh,
Yep.
wee.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yep. So we got 22-year-olds and toddlers.
Yeah, right. It's nutty.
Yeah.
Totally shifting. I am so off script, but that's okay because I
I love it.
I know fun questions to ask you. So when we came, you have to tell about what's it called? The creative, what is it? The something.
Innovation room.
Yes, the innovation room with is it Charlie and
Yeah.
somebody else? Yes. Please describe for these people what the kinds of things that they're working on.
Sure.
This is amazing.
It is amazing. So we are doing work with virtual reality and our students in a number of different ways. Um, we are creating custom. First off, we have an incredibly supportive board who supports all of these outside of the box things, but we have a bunch of virtual reality headsets, and Charlie, who's our innovation director, partners with the classes to meet kids' unique needs. So for our new staff, we have an autism simulation where you put on this virtual reality set and you have lights flickering, you have the sound is intense, and we do it with new staff. And often they're like, okay, take it off. And it's an awesome teaching tool because our kids with autism can't take off the goggles. So it's a really great way of our staff to be like, oh my God, like this is what it's like. Um, and then we're filming custom content when kids are going to visit schools when they don't feel safe. We'll actually have staff go there with our 360 cameras and film content so they can virtually tour a new school. We're working with kids on getting their blood drawn and practicing getting their blood drawn. We're going to the hospital. And students with intellectual disabilities or neurodivergent children, that can be incredibly traumatizing. So we actually practice that. We just had a kid get his teeth cleaned for the first time in his life, and it took us 6 months of practicing laying in a chair with, we actually went, the actual dental hygienist standing over and simulating what it's like to get your teeth cleaned. We have kids practicing crossing the street because, as Charlie said, it's much safer than kids getting hit by cars. So we can practice that virtually. Kids with blood, back to the blood draws, a lot of our kids are on medications, and you need to take blood work to make sure their bodies are healthy and this is safe. So it used to be that those kids were sedated or they were put into a harness to get their blood drawn. But because of the work we're doing with virtual reality, the children are actually able to get their blood drawn and are safer and able to access medical care. And that's not happening in the world. Like we're partnering with some schools across the country, talking about this, trying to share this because this needs to be happening more spaces than Spalding. Children need access to tools like this, and yeah, I'm proud that we're able to provide it. And we have a whole beautiful room. Like we have 3D printers where we're printing custom assistive technology holders for iPads, for wheelchairs, for that you can't just buy, and they don't make it because it's so kid specific, or you wait 6 months through the healthcare and not healthcare, health insurance process and trying to get the kids the tools they need. We're our staff, our PT, our physical therapists, and our occupational therapists are actually working with our innovation director to 3D print these tools so that the kids have them as quick as possible.
But you're creating things that just isn't even available. And those two gentlemen in there, it was Charlie and what was the other
Brendan.
gentleman? Brendan, oh my gosh, they were so excited and so proud of what they were able to do. And basically, it's just so that they're providing access for
Correct.
for the students to get whatever they need, period. Whatever they
Yeah.
need to make their lives okay.
Right. In providing a tool so that they feel like they're peers, so that
Yes. Yes.
they're one of the gang, you know, and yeah, they have it's amazing to watch what it's absolutely incredible. Um we're going to be starting a podcast where we're going to have nonverbal children facilitating podcasts for their communication devices. Um we have some incredible guests lined up that when I get that information, I'll share it with Colby-Sawyer, but some pretty big names in education and in the field where our kids are going to become interviewers. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
but Charlie and them are going to help facilitate that as well, which is very
Oh,
exciting.
yeah. I mean, they're thinking like so far out of the box. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Tell
Yeah.
them about the bikes. That was one of my favorite stories. Tell them about the bikes and how they get their licenses or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Again, back to the every child deserves a childhood. I mean, we get 12-year-olds that have never ridden a bike. They've never gone swimming. They've never gone sledding. Um, and we have back to every child deserves childhood again. Like we have bikes, and if you can't ride a bike, we have a trike, you know, and you can ride the tricycle with your teacher or with a friend. And if you don't have the power to do that, we have an electric trike. And the electric trike, the kids are going to be able to ride the electric trike. But it's awesome because every spring you see a bunch of kids and they're like walking through school with like their shoulders all puffed out, and they like got a piece of paper in their hand and they're like, I got my biking license. And they're so proud because they learned how to ride a bike and they got their biking license. And it might sound small to some people, but what a beautiful moment in that child's life. And it's funny, I have kids that come back and visit me who I taught 20 years ago, and they bring their kids and they talk about those things. You
Mm.
know, remember when we rode bikes together, or remember we went on that hike, or we went swimming, and I cry and I say, I do remember that. But it's such an honor to be able to share those experiences with those kids. And it really is an honor to 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 have the opportunity to work with these children.
What do you attribute your success to, would you say? And I know that's such a,
Yeah.
there's not just one thing, but what do you think?
I think I'm terrified of failure, but not afraid to make mistakes.
Mm,
Meaning
I
that
gotta write that down.
I came up with that today. How do you like that?
I love it.
Thank you. Um, Copyright bumper
Yeah.
sticker.
Hashtag
Yeah.
mistakes.
No, and I think that's one of the things Colby-Sawyer gave me because I made mistakes at Colby-Sawyer,
Yeah.
and Colby-Sawyer forgave me and welcomed me back,
Colby-Sawyer
and
held you accountable and then
yeah,
wrapped you up
and then loved me.
and said,
Yeah.
okay, but get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but what that did, like we all make mistakes, and as a leader, like I'm not afraid of making mistakes. In fact, some of our most incredible growth as a school is when I've made mistakes. And my staff tell me and we process and we fix it.
Right.
Um, Failure's not an option. I can't not be on my game with the kids. My kids don't deserve that. My kids deserve 100% of what I can give them.
Mhm.
And being prepared and present for my students and staff is my priority when I'm at work. And having the humility just to say like I don't know everything, and I surround myself with brilliant people. I mean, I work with occupational therapists, physical therapists, board certified behavioral analysts, speech pathologists, social workers, clinical staff. Um, and every day I'm like, wow, you guys are way smarter than I am. But I get to drive the train and
Right.
just facilitate this and take it all in, and having the trust I do in my staff and that lack of fear of making mistakes has really led me, I think, to this place where we're really doing amazing things.
It is amazing. If any of you out there get a chance to go visit Spalding, you should. You just should. It's the most amazing place. How about if we open it up to questions, Garrett? So if anybody wants
Sure.
to ask you directly,
Yeah.
unless is there anything that I missed? Is there anything else you want to share before we?
No, I'm happy to answer questions. I could talk about this stuff all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan,
We have a question.
Yeah, Dan says, Garrett, you've been part of the place for so long and literally grew up there, but it's clear that you are bringing new and innovative strategies to the school all of the time. How do you do that? And how do you remain aware of strategies and methods you can adopt and adapt from elsewhere?
yeah, that's a good question. I read a lot. The Council for Exceptional Children, I spend a lot of time reading articles there. I'm gonna be honest though, there's not a lot of places doing what we're doing. So I have the luxury of, say we have 68 kids, they're from 40 different school districts. I get to look at 40 different instances of failure to provide for the children and figure out what do we do to meet this kid's unique needs. And I'm not shunning the public school system. It's just we have resources available that they don't. So it's a mix. A lot of what I'm doing right now, Dan, is reading about leadership and like organizational psychology and how to affect change. So the cultural stuff we're talking about is a lot of that comes from, yeah, just reading research and yeah.
So
But
here,
it is hard because we're cutting the path. There's not places doing what we're doing. So
but there's freedom in that, right?
yes. Yeah.
Like, why not? Just try it out.
Yeah.
Let's just try this. And if it doesn't work, well, then let's try that. I
Right.
don't know, I think there's freedom in that. But Dan, what's so interesting is that Garrett and I had a conversation about his dad being the administrator there for so long and how now he's walking this sort of like, it's not really tricky, but it's interesting that he's honoring his dad's legacy, but at the same time being like, okay, let's blow this up, right? And so there's just a little bit of a, that's sort of like an interesting kind of thing to.
That's sort of why I asked, Garrett, because I just think you're such a part of the place, and it would be so easy to just. I'm sure it wouldn't be, because you don't want to fail and you want to meet these kids' needs. But for somebody, it might be easy just to sort of do what's been done. And so thanks for sharing that and telling us. That's great.
You're very welcome. And that's a great question. I can tell you that for 16 years, I was an assistant principal or assistant special ed director. So I had 16 years to put these mad scientist plans in place where when I got the reins, I was like, let's rock and roll. I've been waiting. And then Patty asked, the fourth part of Choose Love is compassion in action. And we just got a therapy dog. So a therapy dog is going to be on campus every Tuesday, working with our children in group therapy. So, and that's new too. We've never had a therapy dog, but that's not blazing trails. That's been done. And then how many are on the staff? We have over 300 employees at Spalding. It's not considered a state school. It is private. Our funding is through the district of liability. So when a kid is placed with us from Kearsarge would then pay the academic bill for the student to be there. If a kid lives there, often it's paid by the Department of Children, Youth, and Families.
Peg's got a question.
Yeah.
Peg's got her hand up.
Hi, Garrett. I'm Amy's roommate from Colby-Sawyer from freshman year to senior year.
We need to talk offline. I need stories.
We got them.
I've got a couple, but I am the mom, a single mom, because my husband passed away 19 years ago, of a 24-year-old autistic male.
Yep.
Who he could come up right now, but he had gone to Kearsarge, and a good friend of his went over to your school. Mom raved about it. I know you know who it is. But I just want to thank you for all the work that you do on the behalf of these kids. When Keys, come say hi to my friends. He had his wisdom teeth out yesterday, so he's got little
Oh,
ice
no.
pack. Say hi to everybody. So this is Garrett, right?
Hey,
Hello.
Keegan.
Hi, Keegs.
Say hi, Aim.
Hi.
Okay.
Is your name Keegan?
Garrett's asking you, is your name Keegan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Keegan, I have a son named Keegan too.
No way.
I do.
That's great. Keys, you hear that? Garrett has the same name, Keegan. How old is Keegan?
Keegan is 5.5.
Wow, he's 5.5. He's got your name. Isn't that the best? Yeah. Anyway, he had his wisdom teeth pulled yesterday, but Dartmouth
Ouch.
Hitchcock, like when you said the whole thing about the IV going in, having to have his blood, I was like an anxious mess on Friday. He did so well.
Awesome.
He had 5 teeth they were going to take out, and they took out 1. But the work that you guys do, preparing these kids for life, and just coming from a traumatized background. I mean, I sent Amy a text. I'm like, okay, I'm man down in my kitchen with the tissues. That's why I had the camera. But thank you for all, she knows all you do, because your work is truly amazing. And as a parent, a single parent who had to do all the work for the last, almost 19 years, it's a lot of work. Like
Sure.
I finished his guardianship paperwork with the state last night.
Yeah.
When I first went to get his guardianship, when he was 18, Brad Cook is the college attorney, but also my attorney. Brad went with me to the New Hampshire Circuit Probate Court.
Yeah.
And we filed for guardianship. And it's amazing to me that, they make you do it every year, and it's for
Yeah.
good reason, I think. But the work that you do is truly amazing. And I'm coming on the next field trip with Amy.
Yeah, please do.
It's awesome.
I appreciate your kind words, and Keegan's lucky to have a mother like you who supported him, all those years and got him to the place where he's at now. So well done, Mom.
Well, you know what? It takes, like I give everybody credit. It takes a village these
Yeah,
days.
it sure does.
And his brothers have been phenomenal, and he's had some great teachers, family and parents along the way that have really been tremendous helps to me. So
That's
thank
wonderful.
you for all you do. This has been awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Garrett, it looks like we have another question from Amanda here. She says, Garrett, the work you do is tremendous. Thank you. How do you keep in touch and support your students when they graduate from your amazing school?
Mm.
Yeah. It's weird because when they leave, it's time to say goodbye. But like once you're a Spalding student, you're always a Spalding student, meaning we're always going to love you. We're always going to be there. But in a way, if we've done our job, it's okay to say goodbye, and it's okay to move on. For a lot of our kids, when you're ripped out of your home, and it sounds, it's a powerful word, ripped, but it's true. The police come, they take you from your home. All of a sudden, you're in this new place. Your parents are in jail. You go to a new school. You get adopted. You start a new life. They might come back 20 years later, 15 years later, but really in like the immediate time after they leave, we don't hear from them. And that's okay. It really is. It's so bittersweet. And then with that said, now, because I'm old, we have kids that come back and visit, and they bring their families, and they reach out to us. They want, when they're older, they want to come back. They want to share, in their words, who helped change their lives, or believed in them, or introduce us to their children. And I wish I had a better answer, and I wish there was a better system, but I don't think there is a system, or I don't think there's a better answer. Because for some kids, it's time to go, and you just say
That's
goodbye.
You've spoken so much about your work, and I didn't know a lot about Spalding, honestly. It just sounds like an amazingly special place. The work you do is inspiring, and you clearly have a lot of passion and care for these kiddos and helping them out. But I always like to ask too, like, you have a life outside of your work. And so you mentioned Keegan, but what is life outside of work like for you these days?
Hectic. Uh, yeah, I have a beautiful 3.5-year-old named Hendrix, and Keegan's 5.5. Coaching soccer teams and karate nights, and I bring, you know, working at Spalding makes me appreciate what I have with my children more. I think they're safe, they're healthy, they're happy. Perspective, and I spend a lot of time with my kids and my family, and we travel a lot. We like to go places. My children have flown more than I flew in my first 18 years of my life. Um, we listen to a lot of music, love art, um, and yeah, but family, a lot of family time, especially at this age. And my work's really hard, and balance, again, to get back to the word balance and self-care, I think as I get older, becoming more aware of self-care, stress, taking care of myself, taking care of my children, but also just making sure I'm in a good place. And with everything we've gone through with COVID and the intensity of the kids that we're getting, um, the last 3 years, the world's really like changed for me, where I used to always want to be doing something, and now I just kind of want to be home, hanging out. And I'm at peace with that and happy there. So, yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? Amy, did you have anything else, Amy?
No, I just love Garrett, and I'm just thrilled that he was able to be with us tonight.
So it looks like somebody, this is from Charlene's iPad. She says, I'm a
Oh, she's a CASA.
and I have kiddos at Spalding that have been abused or neglected. I've been amazed and impressed at how Spalding has made such a difference in their lives.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being a CASA too. That's not an easy job either.
Can
Well,
you can
for
you
those of us who
can you
don't
tell
know
us what that is?
Yeah, what is a CASA?
Charlene, do you want to share what you do, or do you want me to talk about CASAs?
I can share.
It's your job. You talk about it.
We are court appointed special advocates, and we have gone through about 60 hours of training. Then we actually are appointed by the courts to represent the kids in court. So our job is to make sure the court understands what we think is best for the child. And it's not, it may not always be the same thing as what DCYF advocates for. So we're not working for DCYF. We're a separate entity appointed by the court system in New Hampshire. And I've just been lucky enough to be at Spalding a number of times visiting my kids, and have just really been blown away by what a difference it makes for them to be there. So thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Charlene. And you volunteer with CASA, right?
That's correct. We're all volunteers.
So she left that part out. Out of the goodness of her heart, she volunteers to help children that need help.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah, and CASAs are some of the most special people I know. They volunteer their time. You have kids that don't have homes, they don't have families, and CASA workers showing up on Christmas, for them to have presents, or visiting them around the holidays so that they're not alone, or visiting for special events. So CASA workers they hold a dear place in my heart. Thank you, Charlene.
Well, Spalding holds a place for me because I've seen Spalding faculty and staff be like their family.
Yeah. Thank you. We're working on ways to volunteer, Amanda. it's a yeah, it's difficult to find volunteers because it's such a specialized like environment. There's a lot of training. I can't even tell you the amount of training we provide for staff. But it is something we're working on right now. And if and when that happens, I'm going to share the volunteer information with everybody.
And
Because
I know that you've had Colby-Sawyer student interns who
yeah,
work with you. And what's that process like? How do those students prepare for the type of work you're doing?
best interns we get.
Really?
And I'm not even just saying that because Amy is moderating this or paid me, but I will tell you that there are not more prepared interns than the Colby-Sawyer ones that we get. Because of the work. That's why I come and speak at Amy's class, because I land interns every year and then the interns stay and we hire them and then they become teachers. I have 2 teachers right now at our school that started as Colby-Sawyer interns. And a lot of kids in the, I guess they're adults, a lot of adults in the Colby-Sawyer program, they get it. And Amy leads them, but they have those skills that you don't learn in school. Do you know what I mean? Like they think outside the box. They just have it. And Amy fine tunes them. And then she gets to pass them on to me. And we run with them. But they're fantastic. And usually every year, Amy, right? We have a couple interns. Yep. And I have a wonderful relationship working with Colby-Sawyer and bringing kids onto our campus or students.
That's great. And I'm not surprised that you get these interns and then they stay. So
yeah.
Well, we've been about an hour. We're getting some other comments. I think everyone has just been, they're just amazed learning more about Spalding and the incredible experience you are providing for these children who are so in need. So unless there's a last minute question or you have parting words, Garrett, I think I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you, Amy, so much. Thank you for the work you're doing with our students and our current Colby-Sawyer students and making them ready to serve in areas like Spalding. And Garrett, thank you for your incredible work. It's so inspiring and so special. And your passion is just, it hit me. It really hit me. You are really passionate about this. And President Laura Sykes is online with us. And she said, you make Colby-Sawyer very proud, Garrett. And I think we all really echo that. So
I appreciate it.
Great. Well, I'm going to let everyone get back to their evenings. Thank you, everyone, for taking a moment to be with us tonight and to learn more about Garrett and his incredible experience and his work. And round of applause for Garrett. And good night, everyone. We'll host more sessions like this in the future. So just watch your email box for future invitations. And we hope to see you again. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.